Fast am I. Good evening and welcome to the June edition of the Manx Sky at Night. Moved to its new time, 9:30 here as part of Sundown. And it's my great pleasure to welcome into the studio Howard Parkin. Hello, Howard.
Good evening, Judith. Fast am I to you.
So we're going to be together in the studio looking at the Manx Sky on
Looking
the final.
forward to it.
Well, so am I. On the final
Really looking
Sunday
forward
of each month. Now, it's a long time since we've talked.
It is. It must be about last October, November, I'm guessing.
But you need to know that I have been out and stargazing.
Oh, I'm delighted to hear it.
Now, I've been struggling to sort out where I am, but I've been doing a lot of nighttime walking and just the most beautiful skies.
Oh,
and
we are so fortunate.
exactly as you say, if you just wait and let your eyes adjust,
Yep.
you can see it is almost, the light has been quite easy to walk at 10 o'clock, 11 o'clock at night without a torch or anything.
Oh,
See where
absolutely.
you're going.
I mean, we are so blessed. I never tire of saying this. People say to us, why has the Isle of Man got such great dark skies? The reality of it is, it's because we're an island, and when you look out to sea, of course, there's no lights. There might be boats or whatever, but we've just got just great clear skies. And you know, when you're in a darkened room and someone puts the lights on, oh, ow, and you blink, well, it's the exact opposite of that. That sudden burst of light affects your eyes, which have been used to the dark. Well, put that in reverse now. When you get your eyes attuned to the dark, the stars just leap out at you and you see thousands of them. And people say to them, they're almost three-dimensional. And you get a really, I mean, this isn't the time of the year for doing it because obviously it's not light, it's not dark enough. But when we get into the depths of winter, there we get these crisp, cold, frosty nights. We love cold, frosty nights as astronomers. Everyone else hates them, but on a really good, crisp, frosty night in December or January, you can't beat the sky. It's stunning.
Well, I have to say that on a really, really cold night, I do think of you saying, wrap up well, get your garden
absolutely.
chair out and sit there and...
Absolutely.
Now, so many things that I want to ask you about. Obviously, we want to know what we should be looking at in the sky right now, but also in the news, going to the moon.
Yeah.
And also, I believe that something quite important is happening to you personally. So where are we going to start?
Well, we'll start with the moon. We'll start with the moon because obviously, are we allowed to mention President Trump? I'm not sure. But anyway, as I always say to people, it's the title of the role that matters. And the President of the United States appointed a chap called Jim Bridenstine as the new NASA administrator. It took him ages to appoint this, and there'd been an acting administrator still. And one of the first things he did at the beginning of May was make this speech. He made an ordinary sort of speech about NASA and going forward and helping to discover the universe, blah, 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 blah. And he didn't mention anything specific. Then the next day, I think he must have been told he didn't mention anything specific. And he didn't just pledge that NASA's going to Mars like they've pledged years ago now. And they're working towards that with the new Orion spacecraft and all the rest. But he actually said, no, we are committed. We're going to go back to the moon and then to Mars. We're going to do that, and we're going to use our new spaceship, which will be launched in 2022. In the meantime, we're going back into space. It was meant to be the end of this year, but it's now going to be the beginning of next year. And there's so much going on. It's very, very exciting, and really looking forward to hearing what goes on.
What do you think they're going to achieve by going back to the moon, Howard?
Well, they're going to use the moon as a base to establish the technology. I mean, if you go to Mars, it takes you 9 months to get there, depending on how fast you go and whatever. But if you go to Mars and something goes wrong or something hasn't proved the technology, whereas the moon is only 3 days away. It sounds only 3 days compared to 9 months, but it's going to be a technology proven. They'll build I would imagine what they're going to do. They haven't given us the full plans yet, but what they're probably going to be doing is establishing a moon base. They're already talking about putting a space station in orbit around the moon. That's another thing they're going to do, an international successor to the ISS, which is still up there, still flying beautifully over the Manx skies every now and then. They're going to put one in orbit around the moon, which makes a lot of sense as a science laboratory. And obviously there's so much they can do. The technology exists to do all these things. What doesn't exist is the budgetary need, the budgetary desire.
How good are countries at working internationally and cooperating on this?
Only a few weeks ago, literally at the just before TT week, there was an announcement that the Chinese are launching a space station in 2019, and they're inviting international countries to use it. Just completely out of the blue. It was a news release that was only issued literally a few weeks ago. And they've built a space station already. It's been in space a couple of times, and they've gone now. But they're now launching a new one, and they're going to put that in orbit. And they're inviting people to cooperate and go and join them.
Which is great, but it surely is the only way forward.
Exactly. There's no way one country can do it. I mean, they proved that with Apollo and everything else. The space race was won, and all the rest that went on, and that was fantastic. But it was a one-way trip and it had no goal after it. But what's happened now, the International Space Station, despite all these political tensions between Russia and America and the world, there seems to be a real downer on the Russians at the moment. We won't get involved in politics. But the space station's on. There's people up there. There's 6 people up there at the moment. They just changed the crew over at the beginning of TT week. And I always joke about it, because they think the TT boys are fast. But space station's going at 17,000 miles an hour. So look out, Mr. McGuinness and all the rest of you. You're only scratching the surface when you think of the ISS.
190-something on the Sulby Strait.
That's right.
17,000 miles an hour in space.
Well, when they're coming from the Sulby Strait, you see, they're going in the same direction as the Earth. So add 100 and whatever speed it was to 17,000 miles an hour. That's how fast they're going. When they're going to Peel, of course, they're slowing down because they're slower than the space station because they're going against the rotation of the Earth.
Howard, there's a danger. You're starting to make my brain hurt here.
Sorry. Not my desire, obviously.
Howard, fascinating, and something that we're just going to watch how the moon story evolves.
Oh, absolutely. Keep you posted, obviously.
But it can only be good because I think what people are better at appreciating now, that perhaps once we didn't back in the days of the first moon landings, we thought it was just almost a vanity project, going to be the first country to get on the moon.
It was a political statement. It was proving our rockets are better than your rockets and our astronauts are better than your astronauts, of course.
But now we're understanding what we can learn from the technology that affects our everyday life.
That's right, and they're making stuff up in the space station. They're growing crystals, they're doing DNA sequencing, they're doing all these things that we don't realise, but growing crystals, for instance, in gravity, the gravity affects them. They can't grow and you can't use them for all sorts of optical purposes. But if you do it in zero gravity or microgravity, to give it its official name, there's no restrictions. They grow naturally into these beautiful shapes and bigger, which are great for industry. And that's just one tiny thing. You can't make big things and bring them back to the Earth from space. But what you can do is make small things that are very difficult to make on Earth. And medical science and optical stuff like crystals and things like that is a major growth industry that they're doing on the space station.
To be continued. Now, let's have a look at the sky. What's special about the skies right now?
Well, apart from the fact it's not dark enough, but what we have got, we have a plethora, that's the word for it, a plethora of planets at the moment. Every single planet is visible to us. Every naked eye visibility planet is going to be visible in the next few weeks to us. In the West, most people have seen, lots of people have been asking me about what's that bright star above Peel, or above Ireland if you're in Peel. It's the planet Venus. It really is dominating our evening skies. It's like a jewel. It's absolutely fantastic. We get this, it swaps, it goes from one side of the sun to the other. Sometimes it's in the evening, sometimes it's in the morning. At the moment it's dominating the evening sky. It'll be like that now right through till the end of August, when it will get quite close to the sun. Then it's going to re-emerge in the morning sky in about November, December time. So everyone will be seeing it then and think it's the Star of Bethlehem. It's not, it's Venus. But that is by far the brightest object you're going to see in the sky at the moment. But turn round and look the other way. We've got Jupiter. Unmistakably, the only other really bright object we can see in quite a light sky is the planet Jupiter. And that is very easy to spot. It's very close to the moon around the 20th of July. So at the moment, it's not near the moon, but you just can't mistake it because it's the only bright object in that part of the sky. All of the stars in this part of the sky aren't as bright as some of the winter stars we get. And of course, it's too light, the sky. So Jupiter is very easy to spot right through, doesn't set till about 3 o'clock in the morning. Now keep turning around and going towards the east, and you're going to see 2 other planets. Very low in the east is the planet Saturn, which isn't easy to spot because it's not bright enough. But coming up behind it, very bright, even brighter than the planet Jupiter, is the planet Mars. And Mars has got this distinctively reddish glow. And on exactly a month today, on the 27th of July, Mars is going to be what we call opposition, which means it's opposite part of the sun to the in the sky, to the opposite part of the sun, and it's going to be brighter than Jupiter. Very, very easy to spot, very, very bright, very, very red, but unfortunately very low down. It's only literally just rising above the horizon and setting quite quickly. But those are the 4 main planets we can see. Then add to that, if you look at the Venus, just keep looking around Venus around the 12th of July. Very faint little star, very difficult to spot. Probably need a pair of binoculars to find it. You've got Mercury. So all 5 of the naked eye planets, all visible at once. So as a matter of fact, Judith, on the 12th of July, you can see all 6 naked eye planets. And I can see Judith's head going Mercury, Venus, Mars, Jupiter, Saturn. That's only 5. Watch the 6th one. the one under your feet. Gets everybody.
You got me there. You got me there. Yes, and I fell for it. I fell for it
Gets
again.
everybody, that one.
But you know, the thing that fascinates me about talking to you is that you're describing all of that and had to walk around, to turn around and follow the planets around. You've not got a single note or anything. The whole thing, you've got the whole thing there. And
it's just
in front
inbuilt in my head. I mean, I do have to keep looking it up. Obviously, what does happen over the year, the stars don't change. I could talk about the stars different times of the year, every year. Won't change at all. But the planets come and go. They move. They move along a path. If you were to go back outside now, we've had our little quick interlude back inside. Draw an imaginary line from the Sun to Venus to Jupiter to Saturn to Mars. And the moon will be on that line as well. That's the path that the planets go on. It's called the ecliptic. It's where eclipses happen. And that's why it's called the ecliptic. Us scientists don't have these names. We make up strange names sometimes, but usually they have sense. Opposition means opposite part of the sky to the sun. Ecliptic means it's the path upon which eclipses happen. We didn't invent all this. People many, many centuries ago first discovered all these and realised that this path that the planets all follow is this line called the ecliptic, which is where eclipses happen, which is a wonderful lead into the fact that we've got a lunar eclipse taking place next month. We have a solar eclipse taking place on the 13th of July, visible in Australia, but we will see a lunar eclipse. The moon will rise totally eclipsed on the 27th of June. And will be, instead of the beautiful silvery full moon rising over the Irish Sea, which we see beautifully quite often, the moon will be a distinctively different colour. It'll be red or coppery coloured. The colour will change depending on how much pollution is in the Earth's atmosphere. And when I talk about pollution, I'm not just talking about environmental pollution that we cause ourselves, but also the fact of volcanic eruptions or the amount of cloud or the amount of material in the sky will obviously affect this colour. And it will glow red because the red light is bent more than the blue light. So something to look out for around 9 o'clock at night on the 27th of July, which will be 2 days before our next programme. So that's why I want to talk about it now.
Right, so you've given us plenty to look at. Now, you have also kept your word, because the last time that we did this programme together, which was quite some while ago,
it was indeed.
I was confessing to my woeful ignorance about things in the sky, and you said, I'll give you something that'll help you to sort it out. And you have, but it also needs a little bit of instruction on how to use it, doesn't it?
It does indeed.
So what I'd like to do now is let's take a little break. You've chosen some music for us. Let's listen to the music and then we'll come back, and I want you to teach me how to use this gift that is going to help me to interpret the skies, and also find out what it is that's special that's happening in your life. Now, what have you chosen for us?
Well, this is a song that I love playing to people. I use this whenever I give lectures and talk about astronomy and the Big Bang and things like that. And people wonder, why on earth has he picked this song? I want you to listen to this song very carefully. Listen to the words of it. It's Woodstock by Matthew's Southern Comfort.